76ers fans, listen up because this Kawhi Leonard situation gets crazier and crazier every single day, and it really could have a huge impact and change everything for this Philadelphia 76ers team and the future of this 76ers organization. Don't want to miss what we got to talk about here on today's show, so stick around and listen up. But before we get to that really quick, the Sixers did officially unveil their new throwback court to honor, of course, a 2001 team that made it to the NBA Finals. We saw some leaks of this over the past couple of weeks, but the design is final, and I'm a big fan of it. It doesn't have all the exact things that old court did have, most notably that awesome blue color that a lot of fans liked from back in the day. That is absent in this court, but as we go through some of these photos, I like a lot of the details. I like the way that they've designed the court as a whole with a throwback logo and, of course, the big logo in the middle of the court as well. I think they did a very good job. I am so excited to see what happens and see this team on this court wearing the throwback jerseys. I think it's going to be sweet, and I'm telling you right now, when those jerseys do release, I'm going to cop myself at least one, maybe multiple, because just love the way those look. And again, they did a great job on this court. Be honest with me really quick before we get to this Kawhi stuff. How do you like the new court? I have seen some mixed opinions on it. Scale it for me 1 through 10. 1 being you hate it. It's the ugliest court design you've ever seen. 10 being you love it. It's amazing. There could be nothing better about it. I'm probably right at about an 8 or a 9. I would love some of that blue in there, but I think it does look really good. All right, so let's get to Kawhi Leonard because, again, this really could change everything for the Sixers and their future. And I've talked about the Kawhi Leonard situation before, and some Sixers fans have gone against me saying, oh, this doesn't really impact Philadelphia at all, and nothing is going to come of this anyway, so why are you talking about it? Why does this impact Philly? Look, especially over the past week, it looks worse and worse for the Clippers and Kawhi, and I'm telling you, man, the Sixers could really benefit from this situation, and I'll explain why here in just a minute. In case you've missed out, you kind of checked out of the NBA over the past couple of months. You don't really know what's going on with Kawhi Leonard, with the Clippers. You have no idea what I'm talking about. Right now, the NBA is investigating if the Clippers did, in fact, circumvent NBA salary cap rules through a no-show endorsement deal with Kawhi Leonard and a now bankrupt company called Aspiration. There's a lot of details and a ton of just legal stuff going on with the situation, a very complicated and fluid situation that Pablo Torre, if you want to check out his podcast, Pablo Torre Finds Out, he really goes in depth and in detail on this entire situation. It's crazy, but look, I'm telling you right now, it does not look good for the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. And if the Clippers are found guilty of circumventing these NBA salary cap rules, they could get punished pretty heavily with large fines. They might have to forfeit some of their draft picks. They could have some personnel members, front office members, coaches, whatever, be suspended. And it's possible that Kawhi Leonard's contract could get voided. And we'll talk more about the possibility of that contract getting voided here in just a minute. But even if the Clippers don't end up getting punished for this, because you do need concrete evidence that with the Clippers, they invested money into this company, and Kawhi Leonard had an endorsement deal with this company. That is a fact. We know that. And he didn't really do anything for them, but he got paid by them. If the league cannot prove that the Clippers were paying Kawhi through this company and nothing happens, there's still a large chance that Kawhi and the Clippers are headed for a pretty ugly divorce here soon. A former Clippers staffer said that the Clippers are done with Kawhi Leonard regardless of if his contract is voided or not. Here is that entire quote from Baxter Holmes of ESPN, who did a deep dive into this Kawhi Leonard situation just the other day. Multiple GMs and other league executives said they expect Leonard to play out his contract with the Clippers set to end after the 2026-27 season. That's an important timeline right there. But even then, one former staffer said the organization's focus has shifted. They're done building around Kawhi. The staffer said they know that, and he knows that. So it sounds like right now, no matter what, whether Kawhi's contract is voided or if the Clippers get away with all this, they didn't really do any of this, and Kawhi does stay on the team, sounds like he won't be on the Clippers after the 2026-2027 season. Now, we talked a lot about the Clippers up to this point in the video, right? So a lot of you might be asking, Chip, why does this matter to us Sixers fans? We're watching this video. We're all fans of the Philadelphia 76ers. What does this have anything to do with the Sixers? Well, I've talked about this before, and if you don't know, the Sixers should be heavily invested, and Sixers fans should be heavily invested in what's going on with the Clippers. Because if you throw it back to the James Harden trade back a couple of years ago when Morey sent Harden to the Clippers, he got back some draft capital. I think went overlooked a little bit by a lot of NBA fans and Sixers fans as well. Right now, the Sixers have the Clippers' first-round pick in 2028 completely unprotected. I mentioned earlier, Kawhi Leonard's contract, that timeline, goes through the 26-27 season. So he will be gone by this point, regardless of if his contract is voided or not. The Sixers also have the rights to swap their first-round pick with the Clippers in 2029. It is top 3 protected, but another potential top draft pick. Philadelphia could be getting 2 massive draft picks here if the Clippers do end up falling apart. And we'll get to more on the Clippers and their outlook here in just a minute. But it's funny because this also lines up pretty perfectly with these 2 big contracts that the Sixers, I guess you could say, are being hindered by right now if you do view it in that light. And Embiid under contract until the 2028-29 season, but Paul George only under contract until 2027-2028. So it kind of lines up there with when the Sixers will be getting these picks from the Clippers. So this could be absolutely huge for Philadelphia, because if things do go poorly over the next couple of years for the Sixers and their stars are injured, they're not winning a lot of games, they're having a lot of seasons like they did last year, they could end up, come 2028, Paul George's contract will expire. Joel Embiid will only have 1 year left on his deal. You could be looking at potential top overall draft picks in 2028 and 2029 from the Clippers, who could have seen their roster get demolished through all this Kawhi Leonard stuff, and that could allow the Sixers to enter a new phase and really enter a true rebuild with some of the young talent they have now, use those draft picks, and really enter a new era of this franchise if things are going poorly. And let's get to the Clippers, right? Because why will these picks be so good? And will they be as good as I'm talking them up to be? Well, let's look at the Clippers roster right now. Regardless of the Kawhi situation, right, they have a super old roster. We know Harden is getting up there in age. By 2028, what kind of player is he going to be? Same could be said about Bradley Beal. Same could be said about Kawhi Leonard. They bring in an older Chris Paul. They bring in an older Brook Lopez. I like their roster for this season, and, if this whole situation doesn't play out and they don't get punished, they have a pretty good roster for this year. But come 2027, 2028, who knows what they're going to look like, especially because right now, the Clippers only have 3 players under contract for that season. They got Zubac under contract, very good player. He'll be 30 years old in that season and, could still be very good. Outside of that, they only got 2 players under contract at this moment for that season. Yannick Conan Niederhauser, their first-round pick from this past year's draft, and Cam Christie. That is it. So who knows what that Clippers roster is going to look like that season. Those could be super, super valuable picks that the Sixers have control over. And look, I know I've seen the comments about this as well, that the Clippers, with owner Steve Ballmer, he always is going to be aggressive, right? He's the type of general manager, the type of owner, that is going to be out there and making a lot of moves and paying a lot of money. Shoot, we're seeing it right now with this Kawhi thing. He's willing to do whatever it takes to win some games, right? Even if they haven't gotten to that level, they've been a pretty steady team. So you think, maybe regardless of who's in the roster, they'll rebuild it, right? But if the Clippers do get punished with either fines or if Kawhi's contract gets voided in particular, there's a world where Kawhi's contract gets voided, but the money stays on the Clippers' books. How are they going to build out a roster without Kawhi Leonard, but with his $50 million salary still affecting their cap space, man? It could be really, really difficult for them over the next few years to field a competitive NBA roster, and that could really be to the benefit of the Sixers owning those draft picks. Now, coming up just around the corner, could the Sixers double down on the LA Clippers? Not just preying on their downfall by owning their draft picks and being able to profit off of this Clippers potential loss here, but could they pull off another move that would certainly leave that Clippers organization even more furious with Philadelphia? We'll get to that here in just a moment. Before we do, what an amazing deal on these sweet 76ers pullover hoodies, originally priced at $80 down to just $34. Are you kidding me? That is well over 50% off at chatsports.com/76ers pullover. Look, we're already about the middle of September here. Before you know it, October, November, December coming around. It's going to start getting chilly out there. You're going to want something to obviously keep you warm, but also rep the Sixers, who I hope have a bounce back year. So again, chatsports.com/76ers pullover. Hoodies were $80, now just $34. Get your hands on them today before that sale does run out. Some Sixers fans are asking the question, because I mentioned earlier that there's a possibility Kawhi Leonard's contract does get voided. Could the Sixers look to sign Kawhi Leonard if that contract does get voided, because he would become a free agent in that scenario, even if his money does technically stay on the Clippers' books? Look, it's highly, highly unlikely, right? And this is why I didn't want to talk about this too much at the start of the video and lead off with this, because I think it's a pretty out there scenario where the Sixers do end up signing Kawhi. Not just because there's 29 other teams, or I guess 28, not counting the Clippers, that would be interested in bringing him in, but it's just a very, very complicated situation with an ongoing investigation and a lot of very particular circumstances that we don't know all the details for, and the NBA investigation has to play out. And that investigation could play out for quite a while here. Spotrac, of course, Spotrac is a great website. Details a lot of, NBA cap details and contract details and all that, but also, in there with the NBA sources. The NBA does not expect to have a resolution on the Kawhi Leonard salary cap circumvention investigation until after the All-Star game. Funny enough, the Clippers host the All-Star game this season. So whether that's the league doesn't want to mess with the All-Star game being there and impose penalties until that passes, or they just want to do a thorough investigation, we'll see. But it seems like we're not going to come to a conclusion for a while. Now, if the opportunity did arise for Philadelphia, and let's just say, right, we get to the All-Star break, past the All-Star game in LA and all those festivities, and Kawhi does end up getting his contract voided from the Clippers. He become a free agent eligible to sign with any team he would like. Now, not a lot of teams would have money, and it'd be a lot of, having to determine what the rules are in that scenario. But look, if it were possible and the Sixers could do it, shoot, I would do it, because one, you'd only be paying him a small amount of money, probably the mid-level exception. The Sixers do still have access to that, so it's not like you're giving him a huge multi-year contract, $50 million. And look, Kawhi is still a good player, right? And he has the injury concerns, and you can see, the games he's played over the past 4 seasons, like, been a bit of a headache, right? You never really know when he's going to play and when he's not. And on the Sixers team, it seems like that's the only kind of players you have. Paul George, Joel Embiid. You would have a lot of injury-prone players, but look, Kawhi is still one of the better players in the league, one of the better defenders in the league, and in the playoffs, we know what he can do. Obviously, he's hurt the Sixers team in the past. Could he come here and maybe right those wrongs that he's put on us Sixers fans? And there are some connections here, right? Of course, when he was going to the Clippers and making a bunch of demands from the Clippers to get him to sign there, which that's a whole nother story in this investigation. One of the things he wanted was for the Clippers to go and bring in Paul George. He said he wasn't signing unless they got Paul George. Well, obviously it's a couple years later now, but Paul George and Kawhi, they are still good friends, and Paul George, of course, is on the Sixers. There's also the Nick Nurse connection, because, of course, Nick Nurse did coach the championship team in Toronto when Kawhi Leonard was there. So there are a couple interesting connections here, right, that would make it interesting if the Sixers would possibly be interested in bringing in Kawhi. And we know Daryl Morey on the hot seat a little bit, right, entering the season. They got to have a good year, or else he could end up getting fired. We know he is never afraid to make the big move, go after the star. This kind of signing would scream Daryl Morey. And we've heard recently the Sixers are trying to move off of Andre Drummond and or Kelly Oubre to keep enough money to stay under the first apron while also signing Quentin Grimes. It's very important if you want to sign Kawhi come trade deadline or come All-Star break, if he's available, to have access to the mid-level exception. I'm just saying, maybe Daryl Morey is playing chess, right? And try to think ahead, on a potential Kawhi Leonard situation. But again, it's a complicated situation. It's a fluid situation. I really, find it hard to talk about definitively. Will Kawhi Leonard be bought out? If he does, what are the rules going to be? What teams can he sign with? How much money can he sign for? When is it going to happen? I honestly think there won't be a resolution to this until after the season. And then maybe we can revisit this conversation then. But look, it's a fun conversation to have, and it really could happen. There is a chance that the Clippers are found guilty of all of this and that he does get his contract voided and he could sign for a team. He also could get suspended, though, which, of course, could impact all this as well. If possible, we'll round out today's show with this question. Would you sign Kawhi Leonard if theoretically he did become available? With the injury concerns and all of that, I think still a good player. Give me an S for sign, P for pass. Send off what you think down below, and we'll catch you next time right here on 76ers Now.